I discovered my wife being unfaithful in our bathroom, so I attacked the man involved and ended up arrested. Later, my son testified against me in court, alleging I was abusive, only for him to start cheating years later. Now both he and my wife are after my money. I'm using a throwaway account because my main one is known. I'm 45, male, married to my wife, Laura, 42, female, for 18 years. We have a 19-year-old son, Ethan, born before we married, who's now in his second year of college. I inherited my home from my grandmother 5 years before our marriage, so it's been in my family for generations. On Wednesday, I decided to surprise Laura by returning early from a work trip. I was supposed to be away until Friday, but my meetings ended early. I stopped by a flower shop and picked up her favorite lilies. I arrived home around 2 p.m. and saw an unfamiliar car in the driveway. I assumed it might belong to one of Laura's friends or a neighbor's guest. I unlocked the front door, called out that I was home early but got no reply. I heard the shower running upstairs. I went to the kitchen, arranged the flowers in a vase, and was about to head up to surprise her when I heard voices. A man's voice, unfamiliar, and Laura giggling in a way I hadn't heard in years. I stood frozen for about 30 seconds, listening, hoping I was mistaken, but the voices grew clearer as I approached our bedroom. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, and through the frosted shower glass I saw 2 figures. I don't recall deciding to open the door. Everything after that is hazy. I flung the shower door open and saw my wife with a man, probably in his mid-30s, dark-haired, muscular, and obviously naked. The man, later identified as Nathan, raised his hands and said, "Hold on, I can explain." Laura screamed and grabbed a towel. I yelled at him to leave my house immediately. He said he'd get dressed and go, no issue. But something in me broke. Maybe it was his calm demeanor, like this was just a minor inconvenience. Maybe it was because he was in my shower, in the house my grandmother left me. I grabbed his shoulders and slammed him against the bathroom wall with force. He pushed back, so I punched him. Then I hit him again. Laura was screaming for me to stop. Nathan was on the floor, shielding his face, blood dripping from his nose. The sight of blood snapped me out of it. I stepped back and gave him 5 minutes to leave before I called the cops. He grabbed his clothes and fled, still bleeding and barely dressed. Laura ran after him. Now she's calling me unhinged and violent, staying at her sister's place. She's threatening divorce and a restraining order. Ethan called me yesterday, saying his mom told him everything. He said he's ashamed I attacked an innocent man. When I explained that Nathan was with his mother, he said that didn't justify assault. I know I shouldn't have hit him, but this was my wife with another man in my home. I think most people would have reacted similarly. My brother thinks I should have called the police, but what would they have done? It's not a crime to sleep with someone's wife if she agrees. Update. Things have gone from bad to catastrophic. I'm writing this from a motel because I'm locked out of my own house. Nathan pressed charges. I was arrested Friday morning at work. 2 officers showed up at 10 a.m. during a client meeting. They were professional, but there's no hiding an arrest at work. My boss had to explain to clients why the meeting was delayed. I spent Friday night in jail until my lawyer got me out on bail. It's degree assault, a misdemeanor, but it could mean up to a year in jail and a $4,000 fine if convicted. Bail cost $2,500. While I was locked up, Laura got a temporary restraining order, claiming I had a history of controlling and aggressive behavior, and that she feared me. This is nonsense. I've never touched Laura in 18 years of marriage. Never even yelled at her before this. The restraining order bars me from being within 100 yards of her, including my own house where she's staying. When I got out of jail Saturday, I found she'd changed the locks. My key was useless. A police car was parked nearby, ensuring I didn't violate the order. I called my lawyer, who said since the house is in my name, we can fight this, but it'll take time. The restraining order lasts 2 weeks until a hearing decides if it's permanent. Time stuck in a motel, living out of my business trip suitcase, which I hadn't unpacked. I can't access my clothes, mail, or belongings. Laura won't answer my calls or texts. When I called the house, she picked up and hung up instantly. Ethan came home from college this weekend and is staying with her. I texted him asking to meet for coffee, and he replied, "Mom showed me the police report. I'm ashamed you're my dad. Don't contact me until you get help for your temper." What temper? I've never had a temper. The only time I've been violent was catching Nathan in my shower. Yet I'm the villain. My lawyer says the restraining order is likely temporary, since there's no evidence of domestic violence or threats against Laura. She'd need to prove a pattern of abuse, which doesn't exist. but he warned this could drag on for months, especially if she files for divorce. I had to tell my boss about the arrest. He was supportive but said if I'm convicted or this impacts my work, we'll need to discuss my future at the company. I've been there 12 years without issues, and now my job's at risk because I caught my wife cheating. The financial toll is brutal. Between legal fees, bail, and motel costs, I've spent over $8,000. I'm still paying the mortgage on a house I can't live in, plus credit cards, and Ethan's tuition. Laura has access to our joint accounts and could drain them while I pay for everything separately. I feel punished for being betrayed. She cheats in my house, yet I'm arrested and homeless while she plays victim. Comment 1. This is why you should have called the cops instead of getting physical. Your wife's using your reaction against you, and now she's got the legal advantage. Document everything and follow your lawyer's advice. Don't do anything that could violate the restraining order, even if it feels unjust. Reply. I regret hitting him every day. But people saying, call the police, don't get it. Call them for what? Laura invited him in. It's not trespassing if she allowed it. The cops would have called it a civil issue and left. I know I messed up legally, but finding your wife cheating in your home isn't a moment for clear thinking. I saw, reacted, and now I'm paying for it while the guy who slept with my wife plays victim. What frustrates me is how easy it was for her to get the restraining order. She told the court she's scared, and just like that, I'm barred from my house. No due process, no proof of threats or violence against her. I hit someone else, not her, but that makes me a danger to her. My lawyer says judges are cautious with domestic violence claims, which I get, but this isn't domestic violence. Laura's using the system to gain leverage in what's clearly going to be a nasty divorce. Comment 2. Start preparing for divorce now. Track every expense you're covering while locked out. Get records of mortgage payments, utilities, everything. Also, document any joint account spending she does. Reply, I'm already doing that. I set up alerts on our joint accounts to monitor every transaction. I can't freeze them without a court order, but I can track her spending. She's been reasonable so far, just groceries and gas. I'm documenting my costs too. Motel at $89 a night, meals since I can't cook, parking fees for lawyer meetings. It's piling up. My lawyer says if the restraining order is deemed baseless, I might recover some costs from her. The mortgage is the biggest issue, $2,400 a month plus taxes and insurance. I'm paying for a house I can't live in plus motel expenses. If this lasts months, it could ruin me financially. Laura knows this. She's likely banking on me running out of money and settling for a bad divorce deal to stop the bleeding. After 18 years, I know how she operates when she wants something. She's skilled at exploiting weaknesses. Comment 3. Have you considered Ethan might genuinely believe you're dangerous, not just siding with his mom? His world's been flipped, and now his dad's facing assault charges. Try reaching out through a relative instead of directly. Reply. I've thought about it, but Ethan won't hear my side. He's 19, not a child. He's smart enough to know there are two sides, but he's only listening to Laura. What stings is he called me father in his text, not dad. We were always close. I coached his soccer teams, taught him to drive, helped with college apps. Now he treats me like a stranger. I tried contacting him through my brother, but Ethan won't take his calls either. Laura's convinced him I'm a threat. I don't know what she said, but he thinks I'm an abusive monster. He's never seen me violent because I've never been violent before this. But instead of thinking, Dad must have been devastated to react like that, he believes I've been hiding a violent side. I get that he's confused, but I'm his father. I deserve a chance to explain. Update 2. The restraining order hearing was 3 weeks ago, and it was a revelation. The judge dismissed the order, but what happened in court shattered my relationship with Ethan. Forever good news first. My lawyer was right. Laura couldn't prove any history of abuse or threats. The judge said my attack on Nathan was wrong, but a one-time event, not a pattern of danger toward Laura. The order was lifted, and I got my house back. But here's the devastating part. Ethan testified for his mother. My own son lied under oath, claiming I was controlling and emotionally abusive throughout his childhood. He said I monitored all household communication and made decisions without consulting Laura. He claimed I had a temper and that he feared upsetting me growing up. This is pure fiction, and Ethan knows it. Yes, we had rules about his phone and internet as a teen, but that's parenting. Yes, I handled finances and home repairs, but Laura said she didn't want to deal with those things. The worst was when he said he felt relieved leaving for college, no longer walking on eggshells. This from the kid who called me every Sunday to chat about school and friends. My lawyer cross-examined him, asking for specific instances of abuse. Ethan couldn't provide any, weakening his testimony. When asked if I'd ever hit him or Laura, he admitted I hadn't but said abuse isn't always physical. The judge wasn't convinced. She needed evidence of threats to Laura, not vague claims about family dynamics. My lawyer presented our evidence. Laura's bank and credit card records for 8 months, showing $7,000 spent on hotels, dinners, and gifts during her affair. Charges included weekend trips to Chicago, Milwaukee, and Minneapolis, $7,800 on high-end hotels like the Drake and the Pfister, $4,200 on fancy dinners for two, and $3,000 on jewelry and men's clothing. We also showed phone records with hundreds of calls and texts to Nathan's number, matching the spending timeline. Laura's lawyer argued this was irrelevant to her safety, but the judge said it provided context for my reaction to the affair. The restraining order was dismissed, but Laura filed for divorce immediately, demanding spousal support, half the house's value despite it being inherited, and half our assets. Her lawyers using the assault charge to paint me as unfit for financial decisions and a threat to Laura. But my criminal lawyer says the assault charge will likely be reduced to disorderly conduct with probation and anger management. The hardest part is Ethan. After his testimony, I confronted him outside court, asking why he lied. He said he wasn't lying, that this was how he felt growing up. I told him rules and responsibilities aren't abuse, and my decisions were for our family's good. He said that's what an abuser would say, and that he's proud of Laura for standing up to me. We haven't spoken since. He's staying with Laura at her sister's, and they've blocked my number. My brother says I should try to fix things with Ethan, but how do you recover from your son accusing you of abuse in court? The divorce will be ugly. I'm back in my house, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. Sometimes I think I should have just walked away when I caught them and filed for divorce quietly. Update 3. The divorce finalized last week, and I got a better outcome than expected. The judge saw through Laura's false claims of abuse and control, and her affair's financial evidence made a big difference. The house stayed mine as inherited property. Laura claimed compensation for home improvements, but my lawyer proved major renovations. Kitchen, basement, roof were funded by my income, not joint funds. She got $12,000 for her contributions. Other assets were split based on contribution and behavior. Laura got her car, personal items, and $25,000 from savings. I kept my car, retirement accounts, and the rest no spousal support, as Laura has a degree and work experience, and her adultery factored in. Her lawyer argued she needed more money after years of financial dependence. But the judge laughed, saying someone who spent $15,000 on her affair clearly knew how to handle money. Laura lost it when the ruling came, crying that it wasn't fair, claiming she sacrificed her career for our family. That's nonsense. She worked part-time by choice and quit 3 years ago because she disliked office drama, not because I forced her. The judge said adultery has consequences, and that using marital funds for an affair breached her duties. She could appeal, but the evidence was clear, and the ruling followed state guidelines. Ethan was in court for the final hearing, supporting Laura. When the ruling came, he stood up, shouting it was unfair and that Laura had nowhere to go. The bailiff made him sit down afterward. Ethan followed me to the parking lot, yelling that I was ruining his mother's life and heartless for leaving her with nothing. I said Laura ruined her own life by cheating. He said a real man would support his ex-wife regardless. I lost my temper and said a real son wouldn't lie in court to help his cheating mother, and if he wanted to live in her fantasy world, he could support her himself. He said he'd help her, but admitted he's a broke college student. I told him I was done paying his tuition and expenses. If he chose his mother over me, he could pay for college himself. Ethan was stunned, like he never considered consequences. He said he couldn't afford school without me, and I said he should have thought of that before testifying against me. Laura overheard and screamed that I couldn't punish Ethan for telling the truth. I said he lied under oath and now faces the consequences, just like she does for her affair now. Laura's still at her sister's, but her sister's husband is fed up. Laura's applied for apartments, but her poor credit and lack of recent work history make it tough. She can't afford first month, last month, and deposits, even with the $25,000. Ethan's back at college but called last week, begging me to reconsider cutting him off. He said loans won't cover everything, and he might drop out. I told him to get a job like other students or figure out how to fix our relationship. He asked what that meant. and I said he'd need to admit he lied in court and apologize publicly for slandering me. He said he didn't lie, just shared his perspective on our family. I said his perspective nearly cost me my house and security, and I'm done with his version of history. Living alone in my house feels calm. No drama, no tension, no wondering what Laura's doing. I eat and watch what I want without justifying my time. My brother thinks I'm too hard on Ethan, that he's a kid caught in a messy situation. But I see it differently. Ethan chose to try to ruin me legally and financially. His age doesn't excuse perjury. Laura's been reaching out through mutual friends, asking for help with housing for Ethan's sake. Some suggest I loan her money for an apartment deposit. But I owe her nothing, and Ethan picked his side. I worked hard for 18 years to provide for them, and they betrayed me when it suited them. They can build their own lives now. Final update. It's been 2 years, and I never expected to update again, but life's thrown another twist. Ethan got married last September to his college girlfriend, Olivia. I wasn't invited, obviously, since we haven't spoken since the divorce. I heard about it from my brother, who learned from a relative. Laura borrowed money to pay for the wedding. Trying to seem financially stable, Olivia seemed kind when I met her once before everything fell apart. Bright, studying finance from a good family. I thought Ethan was lucky, but he didn't value her 3 weeks ago. Olivia discovered Ethan was cheating with a married woman, Claire, 35, with 2 kids whom he met through Laura. Laura finally got a job, and Ethan visited her workplace, where he met Claire. The affair came to light when Claire's husband found texts on her phone. He confronted her, she confessed, and he messaged Olivia on Facebook to inform her Ethan had been spending money they didn't have on hotels and dinners with Claire, mirroring Laura's actions with Nathan. Olivia kicked him out, filed for divorce within a week, and moved in with her parents. She emptied their joint account and threw her wedding ring at Ethan in his apartment complex parking lot. Here's where it gets relevant to me. Ethan called 2 weeks ago, sobbing, begging for help. He said Olivia took everything and he can't afford his apartment or car payments. He said he made a mistake and now understands my pain from Laura's betrayal. He asked for help with a divorce lawyer, and Rentai asked if he was calling to apologize for lying in court. He said it was different because he was protecting his mom. I told him to call back when he's ready to admit he lied and ask for forgiveness, then hung up. Laura called the next day. She's struggling financially. Her job pays little as she's new and lacks a client base. Her sister's husband evicted her, so she's in a $300 a week motel. She asked for a loan for an apartment deposit, saying it's for Ethan's stability during his divorce. I laughed and asked why I'd help. She said it was for our family and that Ethan needs support. I said Ethan made his choice by testifying against me, and she made hers by sleeping with Nathan in my shower. She cried, saying her affair was a mistake that got out of hand. I told her spending $7,000 on another man was a deliberate choice, not a mistake. Then she said something infuriating. Helping them would prove I'm the bigger person and have forgiven them. I said forgiveness doesn't mean funding their bad decisions, and I'm not interested in being the bigger person. I wish them luck living with their choices, like I had to with mine. Ethan's called 3 more times, increasingly desperate. He's behind on rent and his car's about to be repossessed. He dropped out of college, unable to afford it, and works at a burger joint for $12 an hour. In his last call, he apologized for testifying, but said he believed Laura and thought he was right. I said that's an excuse, not an apology for lying. Olivia messaged me on Facebook, apologizing for believing Ethan and Laura's lies during the divorce. She said her own divorce showed her the pain of betrayal. I'm done with both of them. They're adults who made their choices and now face the consequences. I spent years supporting Laura and fixing Ethan's problems. I'm no longer their safety net. They burned that bridge when they tried to ruin my life in court.